Hi. Quite a while ago, I did this tutorial here where we can send emails with Outlook via AutohotKey. And when we run it and send it without filling anything in, then we get an error message. But here, old school message box where we have to put something in the subject and then we can retry and add here hi, do it again, and so forth. I did now a better way. Let me show you. So when I send that one, I get message here that should not be empty, as well it's selected and focused. And if I go in here, this will be selected too, so auto select and so forth. And only when I remove it and start typing, then the red background disappeared. And as well, I cannot send it here. And here I have the dark screen for even the context menu. And in the old one, I don't have that. So let's start fresh and delete everything here and add back what we need, as well the function where we can have changing the color scheme from Windows. So we require AutohotKey 2.0 and then single instance. Then we add back the send email with Outlook function. Nothing changed here. And here we have function where we use the Windows API and change the theme for the app. In this are using only the dark mode. As you can see, we have here the default settings. Doesn't work for me. Then we have allow dark, we have force dark and force light. Interesting for me is only the value 2 and 3, and 2 I did as a default. Let's add now the email form function. Here as well, nothing new. We just adding the filled subject value and get back in time and so forth. And new is here the error level array, what we initially have to 0. And then we run the function. Now we add the dark mode and the basic icons. So we are just calling the function and the default is 2. What is dark? Then we add the tray icon, what is as well the GUI icon, and we are disabling the tray icon as we don't need it. So let me collapse first this one and this one, so that we have more space here. The next thing I want to add is an option that we remember the GUI position. Let me show you that. So when we run the new version and going over here, and then we send it and get the error. So it stays here on the right side. Even when we cancel it and running it again, then it remembers the position. So let's put here on the right side. And I decided use the registry for that. So I add some registry variables, so easy to change. And here I'm using the hotkey current user and then software, Uli's Dev Corner, UDC, and send email with Outlook, and then a subkey for the settings. And as well, I set up here an object, my setup object, where I put all the stuff in what I used before in single variables, as it for me is easier to handle. I just starting the GUI stuff here, then the font stuff and so forth. And here I have my icons with ICU, then send button and so on. It makes easier to remember that way. So now we have the function read last GUI position. We can do that here in this object so that we put it straight here in this variable what we can use later. Let me add the registry function where we can save and read the position. It's just like try catch, where we try to read the register key. Is just a function AutohotKey. And if it's not there, then we return nothing. What the default behavior is then in the center of the screen. And as well, we are trying to save it. So we have to add soon the main GUI, then we get the position, and we're saving that one here with X and Y to the registry. Let's collapse that one and that one. And for now, we collapse that one. And after here, we add the main GUI. Here, nothing new, except I changed then the GUI to main GUI name, not what I had before, like an email form, whatever, but that's still up to you. And I set the basic background, what I get from the setup GUI background color. I removed the caption, what means I have to take care everything usually a GUI provided from Windows, like the title bar and everything. I will show you how it looks like when it's not there. Here we can run that now. And as we have already our destroy handler where we close the GUI with, and as well we save the last GUI position. So when we cancel that one. To see more, let's add a bit all the REST form fields like subject and so on. Then we are going over the stuff here. So all the form fields. So just like the basic font color and then the subject text, what is here subject and an asterisk. So that is required. And then the edit field with one row and a variable, and then the stuff from the width and so on coming from the setup, and the filled subject value when there is some. If not, we're starting with an empty one. And then get back in time as well, first with the text and then the month calendar. So here we have the email group and then the drop-down list. And last but not least, we have the message text and as well the edit field for the message. We have that one, we can run that again. That's now how it looks like. And what we can do to see that better, we are changing this value. So let's make a copy, then comment that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and run it again. As you can see, now we don't have the round corners like we had before. And the reason is because of this caption here. Would we add that back, it would look like that. We can remove that as well, but I want to have here like a different way. So that's why I removed that one. And the next thing is, usually you need the title bar to move the GUI. But here I set it up that I can use as well the title and here the spacer, what I add here. That would be then here the send message. That is event for the click. Let's comment that out and run it again. So now it looks like that again. Now I cannot move the GUI and this is here just a spacer. So that's actually what it looks like that way. Get that back here. And to get a little bit more breathing here with the buttons, at the end of the GUI here, I add button spacer. And now I have my spacer. I have to get some width here, even at 0, so that I have not too much space. To getting back to round corners, we have as well an DLL call. It's just what I found in the internet. Let's add that here. And the only thing what I do here, I add the main GUI in here so that I can use that for my GUI. So now I have it again in this way. Can move it again. Get this color back. And now my black look even better than before. Next thing what we have to add is the send button because we don't have any function here. So let's close that up so that we have some space here. Send button just over the cancel button, starting with the handler function. And here we have the save last GUI position. Same like in the cancel button. Then we putting everything when we sending it so that we can use the variable we set up in each of the fields. Then we assume that we don't have any errors and the error level will be empty as well. Then we adding the validation for the input. Here I'm checking each field. Is it empty or has the pre-filled text in there for the information for the user, so that should not be empty, as we should not send any email where the subject says this should not be empty, right? Then as we adding the please select an email group here and so forth. The first one we have to check for empty because pre-selected is nothing, but after we running it the first time we have of course the please select an email group. So next thing what we do is show the form when we have an error, as we always setting the no error to false. And then we have to ask for the opposite value. What is no error is actually true. And here with the exclamation mark, we're asking the opposite. So, and basically that means we have an error, so we're running the form again. After we run the form and there is no error, then we have to put together our email group. So we are checking what we send it and then getting together the email group A, B, and C, where we are adding the different emails and as well a salutation where we want to address the email group. Here I put in defaults, maybe we don't need it, but when we see there's an error, then we know, okay, something went wrong. And the next thing is we have to compose the email. And here nothing new, we're just adding the subject and the email body with a standard HTML form and using some placeholder for the salutation and the message. And last but not least, we have to send the form when we have no error. So we are checking the form if there is no error. And now we provide a message box, but we can switch that here later. Collapse that one here. And under the send button, we put an event where we can use the click event to run this function. So let's try that. Here we have it. Send it. Of course, we're not getting any error except when we would fill everything out. So for now, no information whatsoever. So let's go here to the top and processing then the input. So we have here the email group. First, we have to figure out which email group we selected. This we do with the loop. So we are looping through the array, checking which one it is, and then getting the index back. And then checking fields for errors. If they have an error, we are adding then the red error color. And we do this for the subject, for the email group, and as well for the message text. The way that works is we are checking here the array. If it has the word subject has error in there, and then setting that to true, and then we getting that value. If it false, we getting that one. So let's add this function here at the end, somewhere here. And that's just a simple function where we using the for loop through the array and checking if the input value is the value what is in the array, and then we say true. Otherwise we say false. Quite easy. We have that now. So now we have to use this subject bg red. In here, where is the edit? And we can edit here. And if we run that now and hit send, then we getting our red background, but don't change when we type something, and as well the font is black. I want to change that too. First, what we have before the edit field, we have to add the message we want to show when we have an error. And as we have the subject has error boolean, we can easily do that this way, that we're using this variable, what we're getting from the input here when we're calling the form. Initial is empty. So we're using that here with this should not be empty. Try that again. Now we have that in here, but the color is still black, so we have to change that. And what we have to do is when we are changing something, I want to remove that. So let's add that quickly. Here we have two events, one change. So we are changing the color on error or removing it. And we are selecting it on error, but only when this should not be empty is in there. So we have to add both of the function. We can do that at the end, somewhere after the GUI here. So first, when I rerun the GUI at the first time, when we have an error, I want to focus the field what has the first error. That's why I'm starting with the subject, then the email group and the message field. And then I set up the change color on event as I putting the field in there. So the control field, like the edit field itself, then I reading the text. Text is empty. And then I change with the setup error font and the error background color. And if there is no error, then I set it back to the default. And here the select on error, when both values are true, then I'm using another send message to get this form field, what comes from here. And here I select everything what is in there when I click in there, because we have here in, as you can see, in focus. Every time I focus, what is meaning I click in it, then it will be run this function. Let's try that. send it. Now I have this one. Now I go click in here, and when I click in here back, then the error is gone, and now I can remove everything, still have my error, and then I can start typing. I don't have to remove, I can just start typing what is easier. And then when I send again, I don't get an error anymore here, only if I remove that here. Okay, so let's add the stuff now for the other fields. So we have here the email group, the drop down, and here we have then the email background, as well then the error message. And here we have to add this text to the array, and then choose it with the first value as we put it here at first position. Then we add the email group events. Works in the same way like before. And changing the font color. Going down here, then we have here the message. Can set up then the error message. And in here we are adding the background and as well our events. Let's try that, send it. Now we have all the stuff, and we are selecting then the stuff we are going here in there. Okay, when I remove that one and then I send it again. What is still missing is when I send here again, then the form refreshes again, so that I like to prevent by disabling the send button. We can do that. After the send button, it's created, and we are adding the object here to the variable, and we adding here then, if we have errors, we are disabling the button. So we are checking for all the errors, and then send enable false. That means it's disabled. So let's try that. Now we run it again, and when we send it again, then it's not possible. Now we have to put all the stuff in there. And of course it's not working because we have to put it back. The best way is we are using the onChange event, what we have here. What is here. So, and I want to extend that, comment that one, and then at the if no error, we are enabling the send button. But first we are checking a little bit more logic here. We are going over and checking if the text is empty, or the text has the text in there. This should not be empty, and so forth. Then we are having still the errors. But if this was removed and we have the value actually we want it in there, then we are enabling the send button by checking all those errors what we put in here. And if there is no error, we are enabling the button with true. So what is actually quite easy here, because we checking this one and then select the button is true, and select has error, subject has error is false. Okay, and if we run that again, hi, and then hello, and now we can send that. And you can change that with more, that you can say, for example, text should have at least 2 characters or so on, or you can say, no, some characters I don't want. You can knock yourself out. To get this where we are at, we are using the property name. We are getting here our self in there, the name, and to use that one so that we can open then Outlook later, we are going here to the send form, and at the end here, we have to comment that one, remove the comment from here, and when we send it now again, then Outlook will open with the function we have here on the top.